Hi, I'm Darla Warden, and for this week's informational nonfiction book, I chose the Ojibwa Wild Rice Gatherers. I found this book in the library. It looked interesting, and I wasn't disappointed. A lot of the times when you're looking at nonfiction for children, um, it lacks an appeal. And the reason we all think nonfiction is boring is because it isn't well presented. However, I found out that this one was very presented. It includes facts. They are accurate, but they're told in a story form that makes it far more interesting. So let me show you there. Get to our right page. Okay. So the Ojibwa, when they were living on the East Coast, but they had to move to find more food and things, and they ended up near the Great Lakes, and they discovered of these plants growing in the water, and it turned out to be wild rice, and so hence the title of the book being The Wild Rice Gatherers. The book goes through with illustrations and information, a good storyline. It tells how they gathered the wild rice, how it was discovered, what it looked like, showing pictures of how it's growing and what it looks like when it's harvested. It goes through telling about how the people got in canoes and they beat the rice between two sticks and it fell into the canoe, and when the canoe was full then they went back to the shore and they have to get beat it to get the hard shell off the rice, and so they go through all the different process of what they did to actually be able to eat the rice. But what's really fun is that at the end of learning that, there's a little activity and children can make their own wild rice breakfast. Anyway, it talks about all the other things that they ate and how they lived. There is a moccasin game that they talk about. So it's kind of like the little shell game, except you put a pebble under one of a couple of moccasins and move them around, and you have to choose which one has a pebble underneath it. So some games are rather universal. And then later on in here, there's another portion where you can actually make a dream catcher. So the children. So, I mean, I really enjoyed that. They give you facts, they have good pictures. The way it's written is like a story, so that it keeps your interest, and then every so often there's an activity. So it's a great book for children to get them used to reading nonfiction without it being boring. So as far as the criteria for informational nonfiction, it definitely has facts. The author, Teresa DeAngelis, she not only wrote the book, but she also used a consultant, Vicki Howard, from the Community Relations. She was a Community Relations Coordinator, Department of Indian Studies from the University of Minnesota. And Teresa DeAngelis, the author, has written lots of more than 20 nonfiction books, many about Indians, but she's also edited various books about preparing for the SAT, things like that. So she's very experienced with writing nonfiction. It's definitely believable. You're not going to find any animal talking or anything like that. It does stick to the facts, but in a way that a child can understand without talking down to them. It's up to date. It even talks about how what the tribes are like today, and that their language has developed or has evolved over time to where it includes words for things like car and computer. So you can tell that if they've got words for car and computer, it's included in here. It's pretty up to date. I found it very interesting. I love her writing style. I wish all nonfiction books were this interesting and fun. Another thing that I really enjoyed at the end, they give you, and what makes it great for like homeschooling or even in the classroom, they give you things like words to know, so vocabulary list, and places you can go, books or internet sites that you can go to learn more about the subject. So it's definitely a great book. I highly recommend it, especially for homeschools, but even in the classroom, it's a great first book, and can even older children, if they're writing a report, this would be a good starting reference to get some background, and then they could use the index to refer to other sites and other sources to create a more mature report. Anyway, I highly recommend it, and thanks so much for listening.